Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. I'm Raffi, as always, joined by the full cast, Theodore and Davian. Boys, it's lovely seeing you both and having you guys both on. We have a full pack show today, so we'll get right to it. Obviously, first off, as is customary, how are you guys doing? Obviously, wasn't the outcome we wanted out of the NFC and AFC championship games. We have a Taylor Swift Super Bowl, but as they say, as kids say these days, womp womp, and we have a Super Bowl rematch that honestly, like many people, I just feel like there's a lack of excitement. And I think part of that is just in general due to the fact that we recently saw the Super Bowl matchup. I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Honestly, Raffi, I blame you for this. I blame you for this.
It is partially my fault.
You manifested this Super Bowl, Raffi. This is on you. Shame.
Yep. I did not expect the dark powers of Taylor Swift to be unleashed, and that's why I would be correct. So
you released them, Raffi. You released them.
I really did, and it is me versus the Swifties right now, and it's not a great time. But you know what? I was right, so I can at least hold my head up high. I think if I can recall correctly, I think I picked the Chiefs too.
I was right about the 49ers. Yeah,
I think I picked the Chiefs. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But as I've said before, sometimes the easiest pick to make is just the boring pick, and that's normally what winds up happening. We obviously see, like, the Cowboys who got knocked off early in general. But at the end of the day, it's those easier, like, you can kind of, those number one seeds are normally going to be the teams that go as far as possible. But we'll get into the Ravens in a moment. Theodore, it's nice seeing you again. How are you?
That's sweet.
How's everything at Bama? Roll Tide.
Yeah, I've been doing great. Alabama has been a fun time, per usual. Doing some traveling, been in Arizona. Going to Auburn this weekend, going to Illinois soon to visit my co-host, Raffi.
Can't wait.
That'll be a fun time. And honestly, look, I can't complain. Obviously, we did lose Nick Saban. I don't think I've been on the show since that happened, which...
No, you haven't.
There were a lot of tears shed over that. A lot of prayers said. We had a funeral service outside his statue. But Kalen DeBoer is the future, and Alabama football will be in good hands. The other thing that's in good hands is the National Football League. And honestly, I don't really get why we're so mad at this matchup. And I'm going to elaborate here. First of all, okay, sure, we saw it 4 years ago. So what? I mean, honestly, this 49ers team is so different from that squad that made it 4 years ago, you know?
It is.
And also, I mean, you're going to talk about 4 years ago. Like, I don't know about you guys. I think that's a pretty decent amount of time. Like, it's not like it was last year.
That was COVID.
Right.
Like,
it was pre-COVID. Like, COVID wasn't even a thing yet when that game was played. Yeah. You know, and the other thing I'm going to say about that game, or this upcoming game, that, you know, as far as why I get the criticism, first of all, yeah, you know, we all hated on Brady when he was making all these Super Bowls back to back to back. We all got tired of seeing New England play. So I get why people are starting to, you know, feel the same way about Kansas City. Personally, I think the Chiefs are a very fun team. I love watching them play football. I think that the NFL needs to have a superpower. I think all leagues do, you know? I think it's really fun to have, like, a villain to root against, and Kansas City serves that role perfectly. Now, the Taylor Swift thing is a whole other animal. At the end of the day, I'm not all that upset at her being shown, you know, 4 or 5 times per game. Like, I don't know. I get why people are mad about it, but it's just not enough to really move the needle for me where I'm infuriated that they're cutting to this woman on the TV screen.
I kind
of have
disagree.
The receipts, Theodore. It was just for context, too. Theodore made a comment saying that, it's overhyped. And then within the first hour of the Chiefs-Ravens game, he's like, okay, guys, I redact my statement. So we'll see if seeing Taylor Swift 15,000 times during the Super Bowl will
It's just that, like,
be exactly what you
they
want.
cut to her the second Travis Kelce scored that first touchdown. The second.
That's the thing. Like, it's what annoys me is that you guys. I don't think you guys watched this game, but the end of the Dolphins game, it was so bad. I mean, every single play, they weren't even showing the plays because I mean, yes, it was garbage time, but it was just full on focus on her about how she's dancing as like the Chiefs are winning the game. Look, I don't think that we need to give her the light of day anymore. I will agree with you though, Theodore. I think this is an exciting matchup because I think in the end of the day, these are the two best teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
I would say. Right? I mean, you can make the argument the Ravens are, and I would say they are, but I think the Ravens last week kind of showed that they're not like a perfectly well-oiled
What did we
machine.
say? The only team that was going to beat the Ravens was themselves. And what did they do this past weekend?
That's exactly
they
what they did.
beat
Zay Flowers.
themselves.
Yes.
why
I mean,
do you decide to dive for the ball at the 1 yard line?
3 rushes with Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, for at least a good portion of the first half, if not into the second half, was the Ravens' second highest receiving yards. It was an amazing play. Don't get me wrong.
It was right.
That good of a play. But I thought it was an amazing play. But everything that worked for the Ravens, they just discarded for some reason. And I don't know if they thought like, oh shoot, we're behind. Oh, we need to catch up. And it's like, you held the Chiefs to no points in the second. Like, this wasn't a blowout that the Ravens clawed their way back in. I just feel like they hit the panic button way too soon in this game, and I have nothing.
They didn't trust their defense. They didn't trust their defense, and that's what they've always done before.
Right.
And this game is going to stain Lamar Jackson's entire season. I still think, and I hope that most people, at least after days after this past weekend, they at least can be like, okay, Lamar Jackson had an amazing season this year. He's probably winning the MVP still, but this was a big game for Lamar Jackson to just win. Like we said this the week before with Josh Allen going up against the Chiefs. Legacy, like a big legacy defining game where you can directly say like, I am him. I am that guy. And he didn't really do that, unfortunately, versus the Chiefs. And a lot of people are going to be holding that over his head for at least the rest of the offseason.
As they should. Look.
Yeah.
I think that I was a Lamar Jackson playoff defender for a little while, where coming into this season, I was like, you know what, we really haven't seen all that much from him. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this guy beat Ryan Tannehill in a wild card game, and he beat a rookie C.J. Stroud, and outside of that, he has 4 losses, and he didn't play particularly good in any of them. Like, look.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, like, before we jump back to, he's been in the league for 6 years.
Yeah.
6
That's
years.
crazy.
That's already a career, basically, for some of these players. But, Theodore, back to you, like you were saying.
Sam Darnold, fun fact, Sam Darnold is the first quarterback from that loaded quarterback draft class to make the Super Bowl. Just want to point that out real quick.
I saw someone place a $20 bet on Sam Darnold to be Super Bowl MVP. That'd be kind of hilarious for cash. But now, back to Lamar, he wasn't bad against the Chiefs. He wasn't the reason they lost that game. But he also wasn't the reason they won that game. And he could have been the reason they won that game. You look, he missed on throws. He missed open receivers, He made bad reads. Obviously, there was the, why do you throw into triple coverage in that moment on the interception,
Right. The last 2 drives were just, again,
awful.
Lamar Jackson wasn't using his mind to make Zay Flowers fumble the ball half a yard before the end zone. Obviously,
this loss to me is, part of it's on Harbaugh, part of it is obviously on Zay Flowers, but a lot of it does come down to, your now 2-time MVP winner who just can't seem to get over this hump. He's entered Joel Embiid territory for me, where I'm not going to deny that he's a great regular season player, but you start to wonder, if this wasn't the year for it all to come together for Baltimore, when is,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that gets put in, and we can move on to the Lions-Niners after. Davian, if you have any final thoughts on the Ravens-Chiefs. A lot of people that gets lost, a lot of things that I think get lost too is, okay, well, we went on this deep playoff run. That's great. There's no guarantee that you're going to be back. The Ravens, they're gonna be on Lamar Jackson's contract. It's gonna keep getting more and more expensive. You're gonna have to start paying other guys too. There's no guarantee that you're back there. And this, as you said, Theodore, this is one of the best chances that they're probably gonna get in the next. Like, this was a great chance in their window of competing for a Super Bowl, and they blew it. Davian.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I think my final comment on the Ravens will be, yes, the Ravens lost, but they didn't. But they shut down the Chiefs' offense in the second half. And that is something the 49ers will be studying hard this upcoming week. And I will say, I think that the Ravens' defense played up to par. I just don't... One thing I will say is they gave Mahomes way too much time to throw. I think that the run game for the Ravens, which is... They've always been a very run-heavy team. Let's go back to the Joe Flacco days. Very run-heavy. Nowadays, very run-heavy. And they just completely, like you were saying, Raffi and Theodore, both of you guys were saying this, they completely threw out their script. They completely hit the panic button. And like, we're going to talk about the NFC Championship game, but like Dan Campbell said, I don't know, we don't know if they're going to be back, right? A lot of people think, this isn't basketball where you have just dynasties where just team comes back after team, like for the the Eastern Conference Finals,
or there's like one team like the Chiefs that or like the Tom Brady Patriots where you're like, okay, this team or Alabama football with Nick Saban's like, okay, maybe they didn't have a good year this year, but they'll be back. A lot of these
the
teams,
Ravens are not that team.
Joe Burrow and the
Ravens are not that
Bengals,
team.
Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Hopefully, Theodore's crossing his fingers on that. A lot of these, who knows when the next time they're going to go on a deep playoff run? It's just very hard to consistently go on deep playoff runs.
And
let's move into the Lions. Yeah.
Let me just say, because I think what you just said is the perfect way to start this off, with Detroit. Again, just like Baltimore, this was their chance. And obviously we're going to talk about the game and what went wrong, but I first want to start this out by saying, you look at all the teams that have been in Detroit's shoes, where you're a young, fun team, and you have a good year, and you're like, it's okay, we're going to be back here. And
look at the Falcons.
Yeah.
Look at the Falcons. Panthers as well. Young teams. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. They win the Super Bowl in 2011. Okay, guys. Or 2012, I think. Or, no, sorry.
No, 11 season,
11. My point is, okay, Rodgers is here. They're going to be a dynasty. They're going to win all these Super Bowls. 0-5, I think. 0-4 in NFC Championship games after that. Aaron Rodgers never made it back to the Super Bowl.
Dan Marino's second season as a starter. Never makes it back.
So, getting into this Lions-Niners game, I think a good amount of this blame could be placed on Josh Reynolds. I just think he just made drop after drop that if he just makes one of those drops, I think it just completely changes the outcome of the game. A lot of people are talking about Dan Campbell's over-aggressiveness with his play calling, going for it twice, or I think 3 times total on fourth down, 2 of those times knocking the fourth down. I have no problem with him going for it on those fourth downs. I think that's the way they played the entire year. I get it's high stakes, but why be soft at this time? Why not put everything on the line? I think at the end of the day, this came down to a players not executing type of ordeal.
Yes, it's players not executing, but that call on 4th and 3 to go for it, I think, was a very poor call. I understand you built a system where, we don't punt the ball. We don't, but the thing is, you're in field goal range, right? You kick that field goal. Wouldn't the game be tied?
It would have been tied.
It would have been tied, but there was no... Michael Badgley, though, was not... he's not the best kicker.
He's not, but it wasn't a very far field goal either. It wasn't 60 yards. Maybe it was 51, 52 yards, which, don't get me wrong, I'll never be able to kick that in my life, even if I trained for 10 years. But still, I think that's a kick that, I think it's manageable, and you have to trust your players, trust your special teams.
Exactly.
Well, what's the difference between trusting your defense, though, by going for it?
Yeah.
Because giving the ball to a 49ers offense that has been completely killing you the entire second half. It's a different story if it's the first half. That's why they went for it. But I had no trust in that defense. Heading into halfway through the fourth quarter.
Well, and let me just say this on the going for it. You look at the end of that first half, right? They're at what, the 3-4 yard line, maybe?
Yeah.
And
this is the counter. Yeah.
They could have very easily gone for it, tried to make it. It was 21-7 at the time. They could have made it a 21-point game. And instead, Dan Campbell goes, he looks, he thinks, you know what? I want to make sure my team has a 3-score lead. He makes the logical decision. He kicks the field goal. So that right there proves that he has the ability to, look at probabilities and look at the odds and make the smart decision. And I get that he has built, a successful culture around this idea of going for it in big moments. And that's why I didn't criticize him at all, for the whole ending game Dallas thing a couple weeks ago. But to me, it's just, you gotta tie the game there. That is just really a boneheaded decision on, going for it. It's stubbornness. It's, being too aggressive when clearly he's shown the ability to make the smart moves. Honestly, I think that Dan Campbell does deserve a lot of the blame for this loss. With that being said, what a season for Detroit. I mean, can we just appreciate that? I know we've talked about the darker side of not making it back, but it's hard to complain when you made it as far as the Lions did.
Yeah.
First playoff win in over 30 years too. I mean, again, it's an unfortunate way. It's similar to if the Falcons back in 2016, let's just say they got absolutely blown out by the Patriots in the Super Bowl, it changes the pace where it's okay, well, we went on this great run, we lost to Tom Brady, okay, but we have this beautiful thing, and then obviously the main event occurred, and now that's kind of scarred. For Lions fans, I think initially, obviously, this stinks. It's terrible the way you had it within grasp, and then in literal Tom Brady type fashion, Brandon Ayuk goes off, I think it was Sutton or some guy's face, and I somehow catches that. Julian Edelman flashbacks for me personally. I didn't like that at all. But I hope in the coming days, and as we have continued getting closer to the Super Bowl now, and just moved on from the NFC Championship game, I do hope Lions fans can look upon this past season just with a good mindset of this was great. You won your first playoff game. You had 2 home playoff games. I don't even know the last time the Lions had 2 home playoff games, even in general. I wasn't alive for the last time they won a playoff game. So I know people from Detroit, they were obviously really happy about the past couple of weeks too, and it's unfortunate, but it's a positive step for a franchise that commonly is considered cursed. But the Chargers are definitely more cursed, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's for certain. I mean, to make one last comment on the Lions, what a season, and look what happens when you trust the process. And I know, look, I hate the 76ers as a Knicks fan, but, I'm just saying that the idea of trusting the process, of putting in a system and going with it, that's what you have to do. You can't just throw in a head coach and think within a year they'll turn it all around, right? Dan Campbell did not do that at all. Nowhere close. But what he did do, and it's different than other coaches being fired after the first year, is he instilled a culture of winning immediately. At that first press conference, everyone was raving, who is this guy? Look at the way he's talking. This guy's here to win, but it's the Lions. They can't win. Well, has there been some questionable picks? Yeah, with their past draft, everyone was saying Gibbs, Laporta, going so early, but it's paid off so far. Yeah, there's probably other players that might be better that they could have gotten and could have benefited them more, but they got into the conference final. That's huge. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And completely
championship. Yeah.
And I completely resonate with that too, where Luke Richardson, Chicago Blackhawks head coach, first time head coach, got brought in. Last year was his first season. Obviously, the Blackhawks weren't very good. They were third worst team in the NHL. Currently, they're the worst team in the NHL, and people are saying, oh, he needs to be fired. Oh, like all the betting odds are saying, like, oh, he's one of the top 3 coaches who's likely to get fired at this point. And to me personally, it's like, well, no one, like half the roster is injured. And when I'm watching the games, like, sure, they're getting consistently shut out, but they're all working hard. It's not they're just like, they don't care. It's basically a skill issue, which I'm fine with. They compete every single night, and that's what Dan Campbell did with the Lions too, where it felt like even though they were losing so much, they were playing well and playing as a team. And I think that was kind of the main thing that you were getting at, David, with the culture. And if you see a good culture, then I think it's worth riding it out, even when the record indicates that things aren't really working out as well. Let's move into the upcoming Super Bowl matchup. So as you guys seem a bit more excited than I am, but I think you guys are softening me up a little bit on the Super Bowl matchup. Niners and Chiefs. I have a Niners hat right next to me. Brock Purdy, this is a great story, just as Mr. Irrelevant and now starring in the Super Bowl. I think there was a high chance that we could have even seen this last year too, provided that every Niners quarterback didn't get injured at some point.
Nope.
And they wound up, again, sorry to slander John Johnson, but you're not that guy, pal. Sorry. Neither am I, so if that makes you feel a bit better, then hopefully that makes you feel, I guess, better about your situation. But this could have been a Super Bowl matchup last year. We're getting it this year now.
Yeah,
Obviously, the big headline is Taylor Swift. Yes, I did see online, and I did the math. She can make it from her last concert in Japan and be on time for the Super Bowl. So there's your fun Taylor Swift fact.
The fact that, okay, I'm sorry,
move to Taylor Swift.
Because this is where the Taylor Swift stuff pisses me off. I have read The Athletic for years, and I have loved it. It's like, that's where I've taken most of my inspiration as someone who wants to be a journalist. Like, I take so much out of reading these articles. They're great. They're entertaining, all that. You're reporting on Taylor Swift's flight path from Japan.
That was a worst written article as well. Yeah.
How is this journalism? You know,
it's not.
Look, Sports Illustrated going bankrupt, not publishing any more magazines. The stuff that we all grew up on. I mean, it's great work. You know, I'm sorry, but sports journalism is not.
I mean, we can have a whole conversation about sports journalism, how everyone tries just to get an answer first before even making sure that's right. They just want to be first on everything. It's a whole thing that we can get into on another podcast. But yeah, it's getting back on track though.
Edition, man.
Really, I mean, I miss those fantasy football. I got those every single year. The fantasy football starting. All the mock drafts and all the rankings. That was always my key go-to fantasy football.
That's the one you're always looking forward to, right, Raffi?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I like all the editions. Like,
that
was the one.
That was the best edition.
No other one, right? Just that one.
Yeah, absolutely that one. But let's get into the Super Bowl matchup, because this is a sports podcast. I mean, although some of the others, I guess it was sports related, but
Alex Morgan's an athlete, man. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Megan Rapinoe, in theory, is an athlete.
All right, allegedly an athlete.
What do you know about?
Let's get into the Super Bowl matchup. Chiefs, Niners. Again, we had this matchup 4 years ago. We almost had it last year, just to catch you guys up if you guys weren't listening for the past 20 minutes. Who do you guys think is going to win? Obviously, we're recording this right now on January 31st, so there's obviously over a week until this game happens. So maybe injuries happen, maybe this happens, X, Y, Z.
I mean,
definitely things that can change our predictions. I'm personally just going to rock with the Chiefs because I'm right, and although people are saying the NFL is scripted for this whole Taylor Swift story, I'm sorry, but there's so many people within the NFL, players, coaches, and there's families involved. If it was scripted, you would have heard it by now. There's no way that you can't imagine 5,000 plus people are just going to keep this on the DL and just be like, okay, guys, make sure that you miss this. No, I'm not even going to we don't need to entertain this any further than what I've already entertained. I think the Chiefs are going to win. They were essentially dead for the remainder of the regular season the last couple weeks, and then they've bounced back really nicely in the playoffs, and I just think when the bright lights are on, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the Chiefs defense has also been really solid too throughout the past couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
I'm going to rock with the Chiefs.
I'm sorry to cut you off. That Chiefs secondary played one of the best games that I've seen any secondary play.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they were just
Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, I mean, they were so good. Like, that is arguably the biggest strength of this team right now.
Yeah.
Now,
It is. It is, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Raffi, to go into my pick, I am going to agree with you. I think that the 49ers offense is really, really good. I think that Brock Purdy deserves no slander, and I think he's going to absolutely cook in the Super Bowl. I think that we'll see the Chiefs' offense be much more active than they were against Baltimore. I think even though we have two really solid defenses, the offenses are gonna be what steals the show, similar to last year's game. And I think that KC kind of just pulls a little bit ahead at some point and wins it something in the range of like 35-25 or something in that.
Yeah, like I'd say like even like 34-30, 34-31 type of game. I agree. Normally, like obviously the Rams Patriots is still seared into my mind of what a terrible Super Bowl that was. But normally Super Bowls tend to be a bit more high scoring and a bit more offensively minded per se than most other normal games, if that's even a comparison at all. But yeah, Chiefs probably like 34-35 to 30-ish versus the Niners. Davian, do you agree? Do you want to see Travis Kelce propose to Taylor Swift at the end of the Super Bowl after Travis Kelce holds the Lombardi high?
No. And let me explain to you why. Okay. There's one man that makes up the Chiefs' defensive line. His name is Chris Jones. He has a quad injury. All I'm going to say is that injuries, even the most minor injury, is going to play a role. So while the Chiefs are dealing with Chris Jones' injury, the 49ers are having to deal with Deebo Samuel, who's been having, I believe, a lingering injury over time. And I agree. Yes, the Chiefs' secondary played amazing. But who needs a secondary when you could just run the damn ball? And that is exactly what the 49ers are going to do. And that's exactly how they're going to win. I've said it for almost every single team in this entire playoffs that it's not about if you could, pass for 500 yards. It's about if you're able to run the ball. Because whenever teams are able to run the ball, you're able to run out. You're able to chew the clock. You're able to, be able to do play action. You're able to just, make sure that your players don't get tired for the most part. And you're also able to keep your defense more on the sideline because each drive takes a long period of time to do. And you have the best running back really on your team, and I think they're really going to be running the ball. And what I saw from Brock Purdy in the second half showed to me that he is a Super Bowl ready caliber player, and I think he's ready to play against this Chiefs secondary. And let's not discount the Lions secondary. It's one of the best secondaries as well in football. And Brock Purdy was able to play very well against them. I got the 49ers maybe by not a lot, but I don't see the Chiefs winning this game. I feel like there's something missing from that team. Nothing is their offense. There's too much. They don't have enough of a wide receiver core. I just don't think that their wide receiver core is good enough to go against this 49ers secondary. I don't think. Yes, Rashee Rice is great, but they don't have anyone beyond him and Marcus Valdez-Scantling, who's also dealing with an injury. So
I just gotta say, MVS though. Sorry to cut you off. The way he's been played really the past couple of weeks, the big plays that he made, especially versus the Ravens too. That guy completely has flipped the script on what many people said. Okay, like he's essentially Nelson Aguilar. Like he drops the ball all the time. You need a big play. If you see the ball's going to him, oh shoot, he's going to drop it. Oh shoot, everyone's screwed. Oh shoot, we're gonna lose. And he's really turned that idea around of a lot of people. And I mean, he's really stepped up. I personally wouldn't be shocked if he has a big game in the Super Bowl matchup, just because I think he's on a hot streak right now, and I think when you're feeling good, you have your confidence, then I think that's really going to help him a lot too. And yeah, I'll be definitive here, Davian. I won't say, oh, both teams potentially could win this game, which is obviously true, but I'll be definitive here. Chiefs going to win. I am a bit surprised before we close out this show and wrap up any final thoughts. ESPN analytics right now, and obviously you can take this as a grain of salt regardless because you play the game for a reason. 59.4% for the Niners, 40.6% for the Chiefs. I'm a bit surprised by how large of a gap that is personally. I would have expected, I know it's like a 5% difference, but I would have expected more like 55-45 or like 52-48 in my personal opinion.
I just think that there's a lot of like, even among sports journalists, I think a lot of them see this Taylor Swift stuff and they get very frustrated with it. So they're just making up every reason that they can make to, put the 49ers being able to win this game. No, I mean, I'm serious. Like, there might be, like, some bias towards that.
No, I mean, you're definitely right.
I hope not. I mean, I hope not, because these are professionals. But, I mean, I can see that.
ESPN's FBI and all, like, their ranking stuff has always been flawed. Like,
ESPN's rankings are always terrible.
Sometimes, and you're like, what are they thinking,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this game screams toss-up to me. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
Like, on paper, the Niners should be the better team. But then you look at Patrick Mahomes and all the experience this team has, plus, Kyle Shanahan and his history of failing to close out Super Bowls in which he has the lead, Like, there are just so many...
That's crazy when the Niners did that a couple of years ago, right, guys?
I know, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Crazy when
10-0. What a large choke. I can't imagine choking any larger lead than that. That's crazy.
It's probably impossible to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. Again, as you said, Theodore, you kind of encapsulated it perfectly. It's going to be a toss-up, and both teams have their pros and cons. So we'll see who's going to win this game. We'll see what happens. We have two of us picking the Chiefs, one picking the Niners, and obviously this game's going to be really fun to watch. So that'll do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this Super Bowl preview discussion about the NFC and AFC Conference Championship matchups that took place past weekend. Pro Bowl's coming up. We can probably talk about that next week. Obviously,
absolutely not.
We are in the February tomorrow as we record this podcast, and as you're watching this podcast, it will be February. So we are a month away from March, which means March Madness is coming up.
Cornell basketball.
That we're going to be talking about college basketball. All three of our schools have been very good this year so far, so we're going to have a great time talking about that. So make sure, follow us on TikTok, Benchwarmer_Sports, and subscribe to our channel, Benchwarmer Sports, for more sports content. For Theodore, for Davian, I'm Raffi. We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. Have a great weekend and enjoy the Super Bowl. See ya.
Peace.